Mr. Carson Price from the historic Wall Center. We welcome in the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports Vertical, Mr. Rob Williams. Rob, the hockey guy on X. Rob, the golf guy on Vancouver Island this weekend. We ask him, where are you playing? He goes, don't even know. Way to golf guy, Rob. Just don't be a slow. just don't do slow play, as we saw. You may have an NHL enforcer in the group behind you who wants to bang, feed you knuckles, and relive old glory. Throw you in a pond.
I have friends at golf. I join in. I go, all right, the sun's shining. Sure, I'm in.
I mean, it's an expensive outdoor drink, Rob. I must say, there's places you can go a lot cheaper if you're just riding along and having a cocktail. All right, well, fairways and greens, as we always say.
Just don't hold up former NFL or NHL tough guys if you guys are playing slowly. That's based on what we have learned this week.
I just said that. Okay. He never
Off to a
listens
flying start here, fellas.
You tell it's July? You took a stab at Vancouver Canuck line combinations. We were going to ask you if Besser, DeBrusk, and Garland are set in the top six, who's the other winger? But I see you've answered it there in your Daily Hive piece. It's Evander Kane. Explain yourself, Williams.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you got you're paying him all that money. I think that he's got the pedigree. I think he's got that, what do they say, hard skill in the top six. I think that's a player that the Canucks are going to be hoping that he's a top six forward for them. I know I saw some other people kind of putting together their line combos. I see some people are still doing the Garland, Joshua, Bluger third line thing. I thought about that, but you know what? And I said this last year, Garland's graduated from that now. Garland is one of their best wingers. He's not a third liner on your team anymore. If you're deep enough that you can have that luxury, sure. But even think back to when Garland was on the third line, he probably should have been on the second line. Like they had Elias Pettersson playing with Ilya Mikheyev probably for far too long. So yeah, it's for me, you load up a first line. You've got to get. I think Besser and Pettersson have got to be, or not. They don't have to be that duo, but I think they're going to be that duo where they can rekindle a bit of magic that they had earlier in their careers. And I think you throw Jake DeBrusk on the other wing, and that's a good looking first line if they play up to their capabilities.
The first line's fine. I read your second line of Chytil with Kane and Garland on either side, though, and that is a great third line on a good team. Yeah. So the question I would have is there a second line on the Vancouver Canucks, or is Garland just on one of the two third lines that they have? And that only matters in terms of, is there going to be a discernible difference between the second and the third line, quote unquote, in terms of ice time, when I'm going to guess coach is just going to roll those two lines and see who's going.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit it's not the best. It's not the best second line in the league. I think Kane has the ability to be a bona fide second liner. I think Connor Garland is a bona fide second liner. I think as we've seen, he can drive a line. I do wonder if we're disrespecting Filip Chytil a little bit here. I think that he's got to prove it, but he has done things in his career. He has
tools.
2 years ago on the Rangers, he had his career year. Don't have the numbers right in front of me, about 40 points. He had a big playoff with the Rangers. I do think that Chytil, if he stays healthy, has the ability to potentially be a second line center. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. He's still young. That's a big if, though, right? Because as we've seen throughout his career, issues with concussions, had one just last season. So that is obviously a concern.
I was going to say he has put up points, just not 60 points. Did you hear that from Malvine?
I did hear
Shannon's
that. Yeah.
I
did not include that part in my.
No.
in my that quote.
That didn't sway you. That didn't sway you.
He also mentioned that if Filip Chytil is on your third line, that they might have the three best centers in the league. I did say in my article I'd like to see who that second line center is before accepting that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but Blake said to me on the golf course, he's like, could you imagine if they're having, like, they've had meetings and they've been talking about Chytil as a 60-point center and, like, nobody went to Hockey DB? Because, like, as soon as we became aware of that, myself, Blake, and Jeff, all independently, went to his hockey card and, like, okay, 60 points. Is he talking about, like, prorated 60 points if he had been healthy? You know, is he
Nope.
There was not a single combination or calculation that gets you to Filip Chytil as a 60-point guy.
People misspeak all the time. That's just a big difference. Like a career high 45-point guy and a quote unquote 60-point center. Like that's a different player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 45. Yeah, 45 points. It's got Hockey DB up now. 22 goals, 23 assists in 74 games. That's a nice season, and he did that at age 23. The playoffs the year before, he had 7 goals when the Rangers went to the conference final. That was among their leading goal scorers on that run. So it's not like it's a 25-year-old that's never done it that you're hoping can do something. So that gives me a little bit more confidence there. So I do think it's within the realm of possibility. I'm not saying put all your eggs in that basket and you ride or die with Filip Chytil, and that's why there's a discussion still about improving at the center ice position. But I do think that it's in the realm of possibility that Chytil could be okay as a top 6.
None of this is to denigrate Filip Chytil. I think he's a really nice player to have, and there's still a worthwhile gamble to be made on Filip Chytil. It's just it's a lot for this team to lean on him. That's all. I'm excited to watch Filip Chytil, and I hope he has a lot of health this year because I think he could put up some numbers in the right position. But it's just that's a good thing to hope for rather than lean on.
The problem compounds because they lost Pius Suter and you don't have another guy there. Okay, well, what if Chytil doesn't work out? What if he struggles? Then what? Because I've got Aatu Räty as my third line center. That's banking on someone that hasn't done it, right? Like he had a nice run, I think, in Vancouver, showed some flashes late last season. It's unfortunate he was injured for much of Abbotsford's Calder Cup run. I would have loved to see what he could have done, throughout the playoffs there. Maybe give you a little bit more confidence. But yeah, I'm kind of banking on Aatu Räty on centering Nils Höglander and Kiefer Sherwood on the third line, and that leaves Bluger, Joshua, and O'Connor as a fourth line. I like the fourth line. I'm not sure about the other 3.
Yep. No, I hear you there. Yeah, I mean, questions abound down center ice. So really, all 3 of them. Pettersson's bounce back. Chytil's health. Räty, can he hold down? Can he hold down the job? The other situation that we are looking at as we project the Vancouver Canucks roster and lineup for 25-26 is, a flux of young forwards who made real strides last year, and that's exciting. Alas, many of them are of the age or experience where they now require waivers, which means you can lose these players. So let's take a stab. And Mike's got the graphic there. Linus Karlsson, Aatu Räty, Arshdeep Bains, Artur Shilovs. We know Räty is going to be part of their group. Talk to me about Karlsson and Bains, as we have previously discussed the goaltender Shilovs.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Karlsson and Bains on my opening night lineup. As we talk about this in July 10th, a lot can change. But I've got those 2 guys, I think, getting those extra spots. It is interesting, though, like where you're like, okay, Abbotsford just had this really nice run to the Calder Cup final. People are excited about, maybe some of these names. They don't have a ton of guys that just scream like, okay, that guy's going to be on the team for sure next season. Karlsson's probably, other than Räty, like Karlsson's probably the guy I think where you go, okay, I think he led them in scoring in the playoffs. That's a guy that I think can play NHL minutes next season. He's got size. But you look at their lineup of wingers, like they've got I think I've got like over $5 million in wingers on the Canucks fourth line right now. Like whose spot is he taking? So I do wonder, I know you guys had the discussion yesterday about maybe trading Joshua, or like do they trade a winger? It does seem to be a surplus where they have too much money tied up in wingers, and they've also got some guys where you can go, okay, well maybe Carlson can come up and take a spot. Maybe Baines, can play bottom 6 minutes.
But I don't know if I want Carlson playing bottom 6 minutes. I mean, he doesn't bring a bottom six kind of game per se, and versus a guy like any of the guys right now, Sherwood, Joshua, and O'Connor all have size and speed, and that's not what Carlson has. All those guys are either bangers in the case of Sherwood or big and fast like O'Connor and Joshua. So, I'd rather elevate Carlson into the top six and see what happens.
Whoa!
But I just don't think he's the top six, talent. Right? I think if he plays bottom six, then I don't know. I'm less tied to like top six, bottom six for guys. Like, would it be nice to have guys that can skate and hit in your bottom six? Yes, but it would be nice to have guys that can skate and hit in your top six too. So I'm not as tied to that. I don't know that I'm the biggest Linus Karlsson backer either. Like I wasn't that impressed with him when we saw him in Vancouver. I thought he showed more flashes late in the season last year.
Bottom six. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know. So yeah. I mean, it just begs the question. Like they've got enough guys where something went really right in Abbotsford last season, right? And how many guys make the jump next season? You would hope with a Calder Cup winner that you get 2 or 3 guys that graduate and play full time with the big club next season. But I don't know. They've got a lot of these, or do they just have a bunch of tweeners, right? Like, did they have a bunch of Reed Bouchers in their lineup?
He's a great example. Yeah.
Right. Like, is that all it was, or do they have some guys that actually are maybe some late bloomers here? Right. Carlson and Baines, I think, would qualify as late bloomers, like kind of getting into their mid-20s here. I do think for these guys though, like especially once you become waiver eligible, I mean that's the final thing.
That's
I think,
it.
Where it is now or never. Like, are you an NHL player or are you not? And if you're not, you're going to be playing in the AHL a long time, or are you going to be playing in another organization and you'll find it.
Good organizations can make these assessments without even giving guys the taste tests. Like they can just sort of evaluate the guy at the AHL. Go, he's just not going to translate to the NHL. We're not going to give that guy. This is not that organization. This organization is not so deep that they can feel like they have the ability to just judge guys on what they did in the AHL. They need a medium-sized leash here at the NHL level to fully see if they've got, because there's numerous examples of players that really don't stand out any one particular way, that are just crafty, smart players that find a way to be NHL players, despite the fact they're not 10 out of 10 on any one particular given NHL skill. You never know if one of those guys is currently one of the Abbotsford Canucks trying to push up from behind.
Yeah, I mean it's not a bad thing either to have, to not be earmarking too many spots for AHL guys as well. I've got, as I've got it right now, I've got Carlson and Baines getting kind of the extra forward spots. I mean, there's always an injury in training camp and preseason. So, maybe a spot opens up that way. It just does seem like, geez, they've got a lot of money tied up in wingers and obviously no money to improve the center ice position.
I'm still trying to I'm still trying to compute. You think Linus Karlsson is top 6 or bust? Like, you don't see him as a bottom 6 guy?
I don't see him as a fourth line guy. Again, a skilled third line, yeah, sure. But I don't see him as a fourth line guy.
Wall work, sure. Net front, that's not a bottom 6 profile? He's not fast. He's not a dazzling stick handler. He's not an unbelievable shooter. Those are what I associate with top six.
This guy has stretches of games in the AHL where he was scoring a goal per game for the Abbotsford Canucks.
Sure, but it's the AHL.
I understand that, but you still have to you slow down that rate when they get to the NHL. But you have to assume goal scoring is still his best ability, and that's not a guy that you stick on the fourth line. Yeah, that's his best ability.
Okay. So what do you think then, Rob? Trade Joshua? Is that the best way to, first of all, get some cap space, B, create some opportunity for the young wingers?
I was listening to this discussion from you guys yesterday, and I wasn't quite screaming at my phone. I wasn't going that far. I wasn't going that far, but I just thought that the feeling I had was we're doing this again, where it's just like, somebody's value hits rock bottom, and then it's like that's the guy to trade. And I kind of feel like a bit contrarian on this, and you go, well, the best time to trade a guy is not when his value is at its lowest, right? It's when his value is at its peak, and he's not going to be any better than what you've got. I'm not saying I would trade this guy. It would pain me if they traded him, but I do wonder, what could you get for Kiefer Sherwood? I'm the biggest Kiefer Sherwood fan there is, but is Kiefer Sherwood's value ever been higher than it is right now? He's on a dream contract. What could you get for Kiefer Sherwood? Because then ask the question, what can you get for Dakota Joshua? Are you just giving away Joshua? Right? Like, you're not getting much for him right now, given what, how last season went for him versus what can you get for Sherwood. So I'm not saying I would necessarily make that deal, but I do wonder, should we have more of those discussions on, do you bet on a bounce back for Dakota Joshua? They surely believed in him before last season. So do you, I think the team needs to make these sorts of, evaluations on players. Like, do you believe in this player or do you not? If you believed in Joshua before last season, why don't you believe in him now? There are clear reasons why he had an off year last season. So can you have him bounce back and then trade another player when they're in there? Now, I also happen to believe in Kiefer Sherwood. I don't think he's just a 1 year wonder. I think he will be an effective player again next season. But I just wonder, I don't love the idea of just going, okay, the guy that's had a bad year, that's the guy that we move. I think they need to be finding ways to get value in certain spots and moving, and that sometimes I think that means moving a player that is, that's had a really good year, cash in on them. I'd like to see them do that a little bit more than they have.
Yeah.
If I told you 15 goals for Sherwood, or you get to play it out, which are you choosing?
Probably 15. I mean,
yeah, no, you
right?
have to.
Yeah,
you have to. Team needs goals.
But again, I've seen some people's line combos that they put together, and they got Sherwood on the fourth line, and I got him on the third line because he was that good for them last season. So again, I don't want this to. I can see the clip on Twitter now already and taken out of context, and people thinking I want Kiefer Sherwood gone. I'm the biggest Kiefer Sherwood fan there is, but I just wonder, I just use that as one example. Connor Garland would be another guy. Was Connor Garland's value ever going to be higher than it is right now? I think we need to think about those types of guys sometimes in terms of, trade chips for the Canucks.
Mike would never clip you out of context, Rob.
No. Don't do that.
That's 4 Junos over there, okay?
True. That's 4 more than I have.
Exactly.
I would never make a clip that suggests we trade Kiefer Sherwood.
There you go.
Sherwood stand back there. Yeah.
Bias. As we know, he's a big Canucks fan, and he has strong opinions, even if he doesn't voice them very often on this show. Nice to hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Rob. Have a good week. Fairways and greens at whatever course you may be playing
it is, yes.
on the island.